Trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. Tired of the madness, done with the sadness. Gonna break free and be unleashed.
I just love that. Every time behind the scenes, I'm just, yeah.
It's been going.
Hey, welcome to another empowering episode of Unleashed AF, the podcast where we help you to step into your greatness and show your authentic self, because we try to do that every single week. We're your hosts. I am Deidre Beecham. Alongside me is the incomparable Jenny Vadig. For those of you that are new here, I am Deidre, Visibility Catalyst. I work with high-achieving women. Easy for me. Women to obliterate their nice girl training. Just get it out of there. So they can capitalize on their inner badass. Capitalize, you hear that? That was a lot of syllables. Capitalize on their inner badass and be the commanding leader that they're meant to be. And I'm going to hand the mic off to Jenny so she can introduce her badass engineer, inner space engineer self. Take it away.
Thanks, Deidre. And hello, everyone. I call myself the inner space engineer now, based on my experiences as a human factors engineer for a little over 10 years, and then also over 10 years as a hypnotherapist. So I can help you reprogram your mindset and unleash your true potential.
Ooh, I love that. And I know I keep bringing this up, and I'm going to keep bringing it up, is that if nothing else, you've got to check Jenny out for her hypnotherapy tapes. She has absolutely helped to reprogram my brain, and it's been great. And today we're going to be talking about, we have a guest today, Deb Penner. I'm just doing a little teaser spot right there, Jenny. So we have our guest today, Deb Penner, and she's helped me with meditating, and she uses meditation in her practice, but she's unleashed in an incredible way. And I don't want to give too much away because she's going to share it, but trust me, you want to hang in for what she has to tell you today.
I'm excited.
You want to go ahead and do the engagement?
Okay. Oh, yeah. So if you guys are watching the pod or listening to it, if you can go to our website at unleashedafpodcast.com. That's an easy way for you to give us your feedback in terms of if you have ideas for new shows, or if you would like to be a guest on our show even. If you'd like to be a guest, there's a tab or a page for the guest application. And if you have ideas or feedback, there's a page and a menu option up at the top that says WWJDD, which is for what would Jenny and Deidre
do.
That's right. And of course, as you're watching on either Facebook or YouTube, or at some point we'll be on other platforms as well, feel free to comment. We do want this to be an interactive type of exchange of information and ideas. So we're excited to have you guys interact and share and like and follow and all that stuff so that you can see our shows each and every week.
Awesome. Without further ado, I want to introduce our guest today, Deb Penner. Here, let me go ahead and bring Deb Penner up here.
Yeah.
Deb, there she is. And and of course I've brought her up and lost my space. Here we go. So, Deb Penner, I know, just shake your head because it's just going to happen every time. There's going to be problems. There's going to be problems every time.
And real.
It's going to happen. Can't keep it straight. But without further ado, Deb Penner, we've already done that part. Deb Penner is a transformative visionary mentor for the seekers, always reaching for what's next, while secretly wondering, when will it be enough? I love that. When will it be enough? I know people who feel like it's never going to be enough, like they always have to seek. But go ahead. She creates spaces and experiences where these souls can explore their values, gifts, and voices, unleashing their unique magic into the world. She's a certified breathwork and mindset coach and an unabashed personal development junkie. Oh my gosh, I am too. Totally. Deb leads workshops and retreats and provides private and group coaching. She's also an international speaker and blog author. Deb Penner. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Well, I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we are really happy you're here.
Transformative AF meets Unleashed AF. Like this was really.
Right. How can you go wrong?
In AF heaven.
Seriously.
AF heaven. I love it. I was talking to somebody yesterday and she said, "What's the name of that podcast?" And I said, "Oh, it's Unleashed AF." And she says, "What's it about?" And she says, "And what does that mean? The AF?" I said, "As fuck. We just don't say it out loud." Oh, well, I just did. Anyway, we're
spell it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We don't spell it out. But thank you so much for being with us today. And I know your story and what has happened recently in your life, but share with us your Unleashed story. Give us some background. What are you going to talk to us about today?
We're going to get around to talking about meditation today. And I actually have a fabulous meditation unleashing, but that to which you are referring, I believe, is this tin box that I now live in.
Yes, I can't wait for you to share about the tin box.
So for those of you who are watching, you can see that I'm in this interesting looking little corner with some dated wallpaper border action going on here. I'm actually in a 22-foot 2001 camp trailer, which is my current home. And I have lived in this space less than a month. So I am very newly unleashed in this very specific way. So in the middle of July, I left a 3,200 square foot 1917 craftsman home in a community where I had lived for a dozen years, where I was loved and supported in the most incredible ways. And I also left a partnership of 13 years. Let me roll that back. My partner of 13 years and I mutually agreed upon the dissolving of our partnership. And prior to that happening, I had this, what Rebecca Campbell calls a niggle. I had a niggle that I would like to travel more. I would like to own less. And I would like more face-to-face interactions with people. I would like to bring what I do into physical spaces with new people in new communities. And so all of that kind of came together in this weird, perfect unleashing storm. And this is where I ended up, in the tin box.
Traveling like you wanted.
Yes.
Beautiful.
It's really an amazing story. And but how does a person get to that spot?
I will take you back to, in keeping with the beautiful theme of this podcast, I will take you back to the leash and then the unleashing. So the leash actually was when I first met my partner. And it really had nothing to do with my partner, my former partner, who's a beautiful soul. It had to do with me and my lessons in this life, as is so often the case, right? When I met this man, I was just bowled over. He was handsome and we shared interests and values, and he made great money, and he was very intelligent and educated, and he has 3 black belts and plays the violin, and he was just this incredible human being. And I thought, oh my gosh, this guy is out of my pay grade. Like, this guy is too good for me. And that was a conscious thought, that this person was somehow better than me. And then my subconscious rolled in and said, well, then you had better do whatever it takes to make this person stick around. Click. And so without realizing it, I started folding parts of myself away, being a little
Yeah.
smaller, a
Isn't
little
that
quieter,
crazy?
a little gentler. Would you like to go out to dinner? I don't know. Do you want to go out to dinner? Where would you like to go? I don't know. Where would you like to go?
Yeah, don't they call that the doe-eye or the fawning? Now there's
Yes,
a term for it now. I hadn't heard. I just recently heard this term. It's like doe-eye or fawning. Yeah, I did it
to
too. So
rabbit hole
I have
slightly,
no. I'm sorry.
excuse me, Deidre. To
No,
rabbit
no, go
hole
ahead.
slightly, fawn is actually a sympathetic response. So fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
Hmm.
So most people are familiar with fight or flight.
Mhm.
Some people have heard of freeze. Very few people realize that fawn is also one of those responses. So
Mm.
it's very common in people who were raised in neglectful or abusive homes, which I was not. I had a beautiful childhood. But it's that, how can I be so good that you can't help but love me?
Mhm.
So that was
Yeah.
where I leashed myself.
But
was
even if
in
you don't,
watching
even if you didn't have direct, you know, an abusive childhood or direct nice girl training, it's out there everywhere.
Oh, yes,
It's out
absolutely.
there. It's in our teachers. It's on TV. It's everywhere around you. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you don't have to have an abusive childhood to have been wrought the rigors of nice girl training and
No.
fawning. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a learned behavior for virtually all women. And in fact, my childhood was the opposite. I was taught as a child that I was more than enough, that I should be who I was, that, I should be authentic. And I just didn't, my subconscious just snuck right in there.
Mhm.
And I just started, like I said, I see it like an origami, like, oh, let's just fold this corner in. Maybe we should fold and tuck that part too.
That's a
And
great
so,
way of looking at it. And
Mhm.
and
yeah,
let me ask you a question because I found this for myself in my relationship, and I'm just curious if you found the same thing for you. Is that once, of course, you end up with this tiny, tight little origami ball. For me, it felt like it had turned into a steel ball in my gut. But as you
mm,
start unraveling that origami, and for me, I look at that as okay. Well, now I'm taking up space. I'm taking up space, and I'm making demands for myself now that I'm unrolling. I'm opening up this origami, and then that takes up space, and it's like and it commands respect and time. Now I'm commanding respect and time, and what happens is that before, when we made ourselves small, there was no resistance because it benefits. As you start standing up for yourself and unfurling, if you will.
that's my word
I
for this year.
unfurling,
Unfurling.
Wow.
awesome. That if you that as this unfurling happens, that the men in your life, and I'm just going to say for myself, the man in my life, my husband, it was really hard for him. So before, when I made myself small and he didn't necessarily like it, he had become accustomed to it. And in being accustomed to it, didn't want that to go away, even though he rebelled against it, because it doesn't work. It's not beneficial to a marriage.
Correct.
For either party to make yourself small. It's just
Yes.
not
Yeah.
beneficial. And so I found that something that he didn't help create, in my case, he didn't help create that. I did that. I did all the making myself small. But as I made myself bigger again, I got a lot of kickback. I used to say that I put myself in a bird cage, and that once I opened up the door to fly out, my husband clipped all my wings because he liked me being in the bird cage.
And it's not even, like you were saying, it's not even that he wanted you to be caged or small.
No.
It was
No.
that was the dance that you had learned to dance together. And it
Yes.
doesn't matter how you changed the dance or why you changed it or what the dance looked like before. When you change the dance, your partner is going to stumble. There's going to be stepping on of toes and bonking of foreheads, and the natural inclination of a human being is to return to what we know, even when what
Yes.
we know is not what we want. So it's
And not
very
beneficial.
right. It's literally definitely to be expected and potentially unavoidable that we would have that moment of like, what are you doing? This is not the dance. Please go back to the steps that we've been taking for all of these years. And at that point, you either learn to dance a new dance together or you don't. And no judgment either way, right? Some people don't want to change the dance, and that's okay.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you bring up dancing, because when I finally put my foot down, and of course, here's the thing. Here's the damaging thing of, there's so many damaging things about nice girl training, but here's the damaging thing. There's a list. But here's the damaging thing about that is that all of that hurts them too. That's the crazy thing. It hurts them too. My husband was just flabbergasted that I wanted to get a divorce. Even though I had been saying for years, we need help. This isn't working. I'm not happy. This isn't working. We need help. We've got to go to therapy, and he was like, we're smart people. We don't need that. By the way, smartness has nothing to do with whether you need therapy or not.
Correct.
No.
If anything, you probably need therapy more. PSA.
I'm going to drop that there for all you smart kids.
And I'm saying that as a highly intelligent person, speaking here with two other highly intelligent people, and we all need therapy. So I'm not really trying to offend you. Just, we're all there.
Yeah.
Do you have a pulse? You could probably use therapy.
Exactly. Right. So one thing I'm curious about, Deb, is you said that your kind of upbringing was more about being independent, standing up for yourself, all that kind of stuff. So when you started to do the origami situation, were you getting feedback from the people that knew you prior to that happening? Were they kind of like, what's going on? Or did you realize it before anybody else kind of pointed it out to you? I
was fairly quiet about my origami. So it's not like I changed who I was. So it's not like I was showing up in the world as somebody that I wasn't.
Okay.
I was just showing up in the world as if I am a sacred geometry that features a bunch of points, then I was showing up in the world with more rounded edges. So it wasn't that I was being false. It was that I wasn't being fully true.
Okay.
And so I think that made it a below the radar happening, not just for everyone else, but for me as well. So it was many years before I figured out I was doing this. So it really wasn't until I had some realizations, say maybe 3 years ago or so, but it was just last September that I went, oh. So I love my unleashing story because it's so very me. So I am a social dancer, and one of the dances that I study is Argentinian tango. So in September of 2023, we had our first Montana Tango Festival. And I went to the tango festival and I had the most delightful time. A tango festival is a fabulous place to be a Deb. Like, there's all the hugging And there's all of the hanging out with people and meeting new people. And I was in Missoula, Montana, which has an incredible food scene. And the weather was unseasonably fantastic. So, and we were right by the river. So, like in between dances, your feet are all hot and tired. I would walk barefoot down the sidewalk to the river and stand barefoot in the river.
Oh, nice.
And it was just lovely. And I stayed with one of my very best friends. And so, like, I would get up in the morning and have tea with my friend, and we would take a hike. And then I would go with my friends from the town that I lived in to these dances. And I was learning things, which learning is my highest value. So I was engaged with my highest core value and meeting all these people, like I said, and getting all the hugs and the touches. And it was just so good. And when the festival was over and I had stayed the final night with my girlfriend and we were together that next morning getting ready, me getting ready to go home. And I said, I just feel replete. Like I just feel full to overflowing in every way. And I had like an hour and a half drive home, and I'm driving home and I'm reflecting on this feeling of fullness. And I'm realizing, oh, I have been like dead, dried up, empty in so many places for so long. And I have this beautiful work that I do that just nourishes me and excites me. And I just love it so much. And I had identified so strongly with the alignment that I had in my work that I was using that to hide from myself that the rest of my life was not in alignment for me.
Gotcha.
And so on that drive home, I thought, I have allowed myself, just like Deidre was saying, nobody did this to me.
Yeah.
My partner would never have chosen that for me, ever.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Mine wouldn't have
I did
either.
it to me. I have allowed myself to become like a desert. And I just stood in the rain for 4 days. And now I can never go back to the desert.
Yeah.
And in that same month, I met some folks who they're actually the people that I'm certified with for breath work. And they have a farm where they live, but they also travel. They don't have an RV. They pack their things very ingeniously in the hatchback of a car.
Wow.
And Wim Hof workshops. So they've got like a stock tank shoved in the back of their car and sound bowls and gongs. It's amazing.
Wow.
But when I saw that, I was like, oh, I like what these people are doing. And that was the niggle. Like, oh, I want what those people have. So all of that came into my life at the same time. So I don't want to do what I've been doing. Now it's rained in the desert. Now I'm feeling lush, and I'm not willing to go back to being a dry husk. And also here is this thing that feels like I should do it. And I came home from that festival and I meditated and I prayed and I said, I am done living this life. Please help me burn it down.
Wow.
And on New Year's Eve,
That is a
my partner moved out of our home. Wow. And now I'm here.
Wow. Yeah. Huge leap. Good for you.
I love hearing that story. Yeah, I really connected with it because of, I shared with you our story of moving up here to North Carolina from Florida. And so I really connected with what you were saying and how transformative of a moment that is. And it's, if somebody hasn't had that, although most of us at this age have had several, but it really is such a radical moment of, there are things that I'm not going to accept in my life anymore. There are things I desire in my life, and I'm going to make sure that I get them.
Yes.
And that's
my job.
Yeah.
I don't just sit here and say, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. It is my job to get up and go get that shit.
Yes, and take action and go get it. And I think that was the biggest thing that, I'm sorry, but just pissed me the fuck off about The Secret when The Secret came out. Because The Secret, I love the ideas of it, but it never talks about taking action. And I'm like, it's not magic, people. I mean, it is.
No. Yes.
It is.
But it's co-created magic.
It
right?
is. It's something, yes, it's something
in the magic.
You have to take action.
Yeah.
You can write down all the things you want and do all the manifesting you want and all the different things. But if you don't take action, you're in a holding pattern.
Yes.
And then thinking it's not working because it's not working on your timeline.
Right? Yeah. Because you're not taking action.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the universe is like, hey, I've got all your stuff. Are you gonna get up and come get it? Or you just
right here
sit there talking about it?
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's funny that you talked about having that kind of awareness on your drive home from that weekend, because that was sort of one of the big kicks that I got when I went from human factors engineering to becoming a hypnotherapist, because I'd gone to a weekend retreat thing to learn about the journey process, which was, as it turns out, very similar to hypnotherapy, but they just didn't call it the same thing. And after learning that stuff just in that weekend and all the potential there was to help people kind of dig into their subconscious, clear out the shit, and allow the body to kind of heal itself or move forward and do great things, I was just like, holy crap. You know, I felt like eyes opened and what the heck is everybody doing? Why isn't everybody doing this? So, you know, it's similar kind of like, how do I go back? But there was too much of me that was still stuck at that moment in, you don't know how to make a living out of this. You don't know, you know, like the logistics of it. So it took a year or two for me to, well, a few years actually, for me to actually act on that. But that's exactly what I went back to once I was talking to someone else a few years later. And they're like, well, what are you really passionate about? And I'm like, oh, I remember that passion moment driving back from. So it's weird how after you've had a weekend like that, that's so just joyful and just gets your emotions flowing and makes you feel alive, that just sort of the drive home from that is what can let everything kind of assimilate and really kind of take hold and make you realize that it's time to take some action.
And that's such a great point too. I think sometimes we are in a hurry to get to the thing that's next, and we don't take that time to assimilate and process and just be present and notice. So part of why meditation is such a huge part of what I do, and I'm just going to jump off my train track for just a second and recognize both of you ladies for the work that you do on helping people to understand how their subconscious works, because that is, to me, that is, you cannot do what we call the work without it. Your subconscious is 95 to 99% of your operation. It doesn't matter what your conscious mind wants or what you're aligned with or what you're manifesting or what kind of goals you set. If your subconscious says it's not for you, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
So back on track. Part of why I really do almost insist that my clients spend time in some form of quiet meditation or introspection is because you have to take that time to process, to learn to listen, to look inside. I like to say the world shouts and your inner voice whispers, and you have to learn how to get quiet and how to push this noise out here away so that you can hold space for that knowing and that wisdom that's inside of you, and you can let it bubble up. And driving is one of those great spaces, especially like I was driving on I-90 in Montana. So it's beautiful, but there's not a lot of traffic. It's 2 lanes. You know, it's like the perfect place to just be like, okay, well, I'm here, but also I'm here and I'm here.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just need to slow down and hold that space for ourselves rather than being like, okay, went to a cool workshop, learned something new. What's next?
Mhm.
Yeah. I used to very much be that way. Very much type A. Let's go. What's next? How do we do it next? How do I get better? I need to get better. I need to get better. I need to get better.
Yes.
And it was just this horrendous cycle of never getting and actually surpassing where I wanted to go, but not recognizing it because I was so focused on getting to the next thing.
Mhm.
Yes.
And so let's go back to the meditation for a moment because Deb, you were one of the people that helped me because when I first started, I knew the benefits of meditating. I had read about it. I had heard about it. I believed in it. And I believed in the power of it. Just couldn't fucking meditate. And it was
I'm laughing because you're telling my story right now. Starting
So
with
it
the
just
type
drove
A, constantly achieving, can't ever stop, and then moving right into the know about it, heard about it, understand it, believe in it, can't do it.
yeah, just couldn't. And it was like, and I'm sitting there, preparing myself and I kind of have the clothes on for today, but and I've got my linen pants and everything. So, I would sit and it was and
This is my life. You're talking.
what is that? And I was like, this isn't working. And it was so frustrating. And then I happened to share that with you. And you really helped me to look at meditating differently. So I would love for people who are like me, and sounds like you, so kind of help talk somebody who's a newbie and understands that, yeah, maybe meditating something I need to do. Or the person that says, you know what, I've tried that, doesn't work for me. So help us.
I would love to. Most of us are already meditating somewhere in our lives and we just don't know it. And so we don't call it that. So the first thing I would offer is if you have tried what you've done, what Deidre's done, which is exactly what I did. Stop trying that. Okay.
Right.
Stop trying that. So the meditation that broke me open is called the Kirtan Kriya, and I will make sure that we get that linked up in the show notes.
Yes, that's
so
great.
I had tried the sit still and be quiet and stay focused meditation. I'm going to share a brief story because it's absolutely friggin' hilarious. So same place as Deidre, super driven, very linear, very accomplishment oriented, knew I should be meditating. Like anytime I went to an alternative practitioner, they were like, do you meditate? Because you should. I know. And I had tried off and on. And at this point that this story is taking place in my life, I'm a health and fitness coach. I have a pretty active online community. And so I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to commit to 30 days of daily meditation, and I'm going to post it in my community to keep myself accountable. And I'm going to tell my community all about it. And it's going to be great. So I announced that I'm going to do this at least 10 minutes a day for 30 days. And I start trying. By the end of the first week, I was dreading it.
And you were in pain, weren't you? You were in pain.
Yes, it got worse from there. It was literally painful. There was some sort of time warp in which those 10 minutes lasted approximately 12 and a half hours.
Oh my gosh. I was gonna say 10. So yeah, that is rough. That is rough.
So I get to the end of this 30 days and I literally post publicly online, look, I know that meditation helps people. I'm not one of those people. I'm not made for this. And I will never do this again, ever. This is not for me. And I meant it. Like I felt so much worse after those 30 days. I ended it. I was like, this is the worst 30 days of my life. Seriously, it was awful. So I had given up. And it was because I was trying to do that kind of meditation, the sit still and focus on your breath and be present and blah, blah, blah.
Empty the thoughts from your head.
Yes, just let them flow by like clouds in the
brain.
sky.
My brain never empties. It's always going.
Seriously. So fast forward many years, and I was reading The Universe Has Your Back for the second time. And for whatever reason, we know the reason is because the universe was like, here's your answer, child. Let me help you. The Kirtan Kriya stood out to me. And the Kirtan Kriya is a Kundalini meditation that involves a mantra or a chant and a mudra or a hand position. And in this case, the hand position happens to be moving. So you've got 4 syllables, and on each syllable, you touch one of your fingers to your thumb. Sa, ta, na, ma. And there's a short and a long version. And so in the short version, you do 2 minutes of speaking aloud or singing aloud the syllables. You do 2 minutes of whispering them. You do 4 minutes of repeating them silently in your head. And then you go back to the whisper, and then you go back to the speak or the sing. And then you're done. For whatever reason, this jumped out to me. And so I tried it, and I'll be damned. All I needed to be able to meditate was to be able to make some noise and move my body. That was it. Like
what were the syllables again? What were the syllables again? Those 4?
Sa, ta, na, ma. And those are the seed sounds of the mantra Sat Nam. And like I said, we'll drop a link in the show notes for the music that I listen to. It's just a YouTube clip, so you can literally just go right along with it.
Perfect.
And so, I mean, I dropped in so fast that within just a few weeks, I was like having visions. I was receiving direct messages. It was incredible. And all I needed was just that little bit of not having to sit still and do nothing. I just needed the sound to focus me and a little something to do with a body that at the time couldn't be physically still.
You know, it's really interesting. And I love this. Something that I've learned since we spoke last about this was about how humming is the vibration, that if you're humming, that's a great way. So I can even envision, going kind of sa ta. I mean, I could hear, I can envision doing that in a vibrational way to even add another element or another dimension to that.
Yes.
Which would be really interesting.
And that is one of the purposes of all of those mantra is the vibrational frequency that they produce. So sounds like om and ong, and each of your chakras has a sound, a seed sound.
Really?
That goes with it. Yep.
Makes sense.
I can't think of them all off the top of my head right now, but so back to before the story, when we were talking about helping the people, you're probably already meditating in some way. So some people are doing it while they are exercising. Some people are doing it while they're cooking or washing dishes. Some people are doing it while they're hiking. Many people are doing it while they're showering. The shower is a magical place. So if there is a place in your day where you are engaged in an activity that is fairly repetitive for you, driving, like Jenny and I were talking about the driving. So it's something where your body is occupied with an activity, but your brain really doesn't need to be that involved because you've done this activity a bajillion times.
You're on autopilot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in this space, this is where you get clarity. If all of a sudden you're like, oh, dang, I know what to do about that. If this is a space where you get inspired, where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need to start this thing, or I want to write about or post about this, or, ooh, I need to reach out to so-and-so at work because we need to collaborate on this thing. You're meditating.
And here's the interesting thing is that there are it helps so much, especially the woman or the person who's, super driven, type A, just on this, kind of hamster wheel, go, 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 get to the next thing, get to the next thing. It's so difficult for that person, and I'm speaking from experience, for that person to go, you're telling me that slowing down is going to make things better. I'm going to be more successful if I slow down.
Yeah.
And that was I'm like, when am I supposed to slow down? And it was I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision that I was going to give it a chance, that I was going to give slowing down a chance, that I was going to give meditation a chance, that I was going to give all of these things a chance, because what I was doing wasn't working. The hamster wheel wasn't working. I was doing all the things that people said that I should be doing in order to be successful, and it wasn't working. But I had lost so much touch with who I was over the years because of nice girl training, because of denying myself, because of people pleasing, because of always trying to satisfy things outside of myself rather than looking inside and satisfying me. And the most profound thing has been in doing that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a monologue here. But the most profound thing that I found from that is that I have been able to, in loving myself, love other people more.
Yes.
And get all of those messages. And yes, things have gotten radically better since I've slowed down.
It's the work smarter, not harder thing, right? When you slow down and let the pieces fall into place, then you don't have to work so hard to like find them all and figure them out, but they sort of fall into place on their own a little bit.
Well, I think part of it too is us attaching value to doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We're not valuable unless we're doing and producing.
Right.
And producing, yes.
And serving.
I am what I produce rather than simply I am.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that even just feels good hearing you say that.
Right. I would like to invite everyone who's watching to just take a second and take a nice deep breath in and then just say those two words. I am.
I am.
I am.
End of sentence, right? Not I'm a mother, not I'm a partner, not I'm an entrepreneur, not I'm a CEO. I am.
Yeah.
And I also, Deidre, struggled mightily. I want to celebrate you for making the choice to slow down. I, on the other hand, had to receive the spiritual 2x4 in order to slow down. So I actually worked myself into physiological burnout. So I worked myself sick, and then I didn't have any choice but to slow down. And that actually happened after I learned to meditate. So I learned to be physically still after I learned to meditate because I had no choice, because I crashed my body with that constant going and pushing and doing. And then I couldn't. And so I had at that point to be still. And so good on you that you were able to make that choice for yourself rather than to have it made for you.
I think I was on the precipice of collapse. I had already slowed down a little bit, but I just couldn't make the mindset shift. And it was all, and I had learned how to meditate. And so I was putting it in there. I was just getting up an hour earlier. Fit it in. So, but I was going through, I felt like I was going through a mental collapse, because at the same time of doing all of this, my mask was coming off. I couldn't hold the mask up anymore. And so, yeah, I felt like I was going through a mental, like I was losing my mind. That's how it felt. It felt like I was losing my mind. And it was in that moment, I thought, I can't keep going this way. I have to trust that this is real. because I don't know that I have a choice. I think if I had
Right.
continued, I would have had a complete breakdown.
Yeah. And you're singing the song of my people right now. So you're literally describing the women that I work with. Is just like you said, we're smart, we're driven, we're successful, we know how to get things done, and we have checked all the boxes, and we feel like crap, and we don't understand why. How come I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing, and the more that I do it, the worse that I feel.
Yeah.
And then the self-judgment comes in, right? And then you wonder, what's wrong with me? I must be broken because I have everything I ever wanted. Everyone looks at me and says, oh, you're so successful and your life is so amazing. And on the inside, I'm like, I don't want any of this. What's wrong with me? And it comes back to everything we're talking about here. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just under all the masks and you're all leashed up and you're not being who you really are. And again, the value of this practice of introspection is it allows you to begin to reconnect with who you really are. What do you actually want? Not what have you been told that you want, not what does society want for you. What do you want? What are your values? What are your gifts? How are you meant to move in this world, right? What is whatever your favorite like personality breakdown is, right? Whether it's a Myers-Briggs or an Enneagram or a human design or, your astrological chart or whatever, but like, how are you meant to move in this world? And getting inside, like the whole, for me personally, the whole purpose of meditation is getting inside so that you can hear your own truth and your own wisdom, and then connecting into that part of you that is the divine so that you can also receive guidance and wisdom and support from collective, from divine, so that you're not trying to do this thing alone and in the dark.
Yeah. It's interesting that you just brought up divine, because I was just remembering that I ran a kids summer camp a few years back, and I had someone come in and do some qigong with the kids. We did meditation with the kids. It was all very just like get in touch with yourself. We did heart math, all kinds of stuff like that, that don't show up in the regular schools. And I had one of the parents contact me one night and say, how much more of the religious stuff are you going to be doing at the camp? And I was like,
Religious.
We're not. And I was like racking my brain. What religion is she talking about? I was like, well, there was a kid that asked everybody their, permission to pray before he ate lunch. Is that what you're talking about? Like, that wasn't an organized religious thing. And actually, I think what she specifically said was the qigong. She thought that was a religious thing. And I'm like, no.
Interesting.
But she was like, we're cool because we meditate and stuff, but qigong. And I was like, wait a minute. I don't think you understand. I'm not teaching a new religion here.
We're just gently moving our physical bodies and some energy within them. That's all.
Right. But since she mentioned that, and she was Catholic, I believe, do you get any questions about how, like, where meditation falls on that line of spiritual versus just intuition or inner information?
I am pretty boisterously woo. So I find that I don't draw people who would ask that question.
Gotcha.
Like on my Instagram, I literally post messages from my spirit guides. So the people who would ask that question are usually not in my circle, but they're, if we take a broader view on that, it's not unusual for organized religion to either frown upon or historically actively prevent is not the word I'm looking for, but actively
forbid.
Attack. Yes, thank
Taboo.
you. Stuck there. Meditation, because meditation is a direct connection to God.
Mm-hmm.
If you can connect directly or correct directly, whichever one,
whichever one works,
with God, where does that leave church? Where does that leave religion? And so
just where you send your tithes, that's all.
Without getting too far down that rabbit hole, that's not an unusual standpoint in organized religion, because again, it sort of negates the purpose of organized religion. If you can just have your own one-on-one with divine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I've found in my hypnotherapy practice with clients is I have to sort of feel them out and figure out, like, well, do they want it to be a spiritual experience? If so, yep, it's spiritual. If they don't believe in that kind of thing, it's your intuition, because the line is very blurry to me. Like it is, Absolutely. It's whatever you want it to be.
And that's how I approach it also. Like you can think of it as connecting with, sometimes I use words like collective consciousness. Mm-hmm. Like we all share a consciousness. So you don't have to think of that as divine or God or anything like that. It's just the place where we are all made of the same stuff. And it's the pool of stuff, right? Or just thinking of it as your own higher self or highest self, so that it's not like it's something outside of you. And I do something very similar, Jenny, and just kind of feeling into what kind of framework and language feels good to my clients, so that they feel like the experience is available to them and resonant with them. So it doesn't have to be, it certainly can be a deeply profound spiritual experience, but it doesn't have to be. It could also be a deeply profound experience of personal exploration and personal growth that has nothing to do with any kind of spirituality, religion, or otherwise.
Yep.
Yeah. I love the perspective that you gave me, and it helped me to realize that there were so many places that I was already meditating. I just wasn't paying attention. And so it helped me to say, oh, okay, wait a minute. Let me pay a little bit more attention when I am driving to what is actually happening. And I was like, oh, I am meditating. Oh, wow. Some of my best thoughts are happening when I'm driving, which, by the way, Lincoln Lawyer does that. He drives to get his best ideas. So, how
many of us have said, I need to take a drive to clear my head?
Oh yeah, I have, absolutely. Or I need to be in a different spot.
Take a run to clear my head. I need to go work in my garden to clear, like whatever the thing is that when you're like, whoa, I can't, whatever the thing is that you go do, that's your meditation. And maybe someday that leads to sit still meditation, and maybe it doesn't. And who cares?
Yeah.
And the objective is not to sit on the cushion. The objective is to enter the space.
Right.
That's right. That's the thing, is that there is no rule. And we have in our heads, especially us nice girls, that we got to follow the rules. And so we go out in there and we look for the rules. That's why we went, how do we do this? So I love that. I love that the perspective of, well, find out what works for you. Just because the way I meditate works for me doesn't mean it's the meditation that's going to work for you. I know one of the things that I did is I went out and I looked at guided meditations, and that helped me the most. Until I was able to do others. And then Deb's perspective really helped me. But having a guided meditation, there's nothing wrong with that. You get stuck and you're just like, I don't know if I can do a guided meditation. Most guided meditations will have a spot where it's just nothing after they've helped you to get into a place of Zen, if you will. That there's space for you to just sit and let happen whatever happens. And maybe nothing happens, but sometimes you could be incredibly surprised.
Yeah. So like you said, do a guided meditation, do a breath work practice, and then just give yourself a few minutes after your breath work. Try ecstatic dance. If you've never done yoga from the viewpoint of creating space for that meditative state, try a yoga practice. That is actually the purpose of yoga, is to bring us to bring our physical body into a place where we are ready to access our spiritual body or our energetic body or
It's
emotional
one of the things
body.
I love about somatic yoga for that same reason, because even with yoga, I was having just strange outbursts. And yeah, I would get into a child's pose and I would just cry and just cry.
Oh, emotional outburst.
So, yeah, emotional. Sorry, I don't know
Okay.
what that was. Yeah, and I would have this.
Develop Tourette's?
Not AF
Yeah,
outbursts.
no.
It's different. It's different.
No. So no, I would just cry, and I discovered somatic yoga, which I cried a lot during, but it helped me to release so much. And sometimes the stop to meditating is just that you've got stuff in there that's just got to come out.
Yes.
And just release it.
Yep.
And that's okay. And that's okay too. Everybody's journey's different.
Yes. Listen to music is another great space to just get lost. So the 4 aspects of what we would call a peak state experience, which is very similar to our meditative state, are selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness. So anything that takes you into that space where you are not so attached to all of your thoughts and your worries, and you're analyzing the past and projecting the future, any place that you lose track of time, any place that you're experiencing that feeling of flow where everything feels just super easy and like it's just bam, 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 and things feel like technicolor. Any place that you experience that, even for the tiniest little bit of time, that's a space that you can elbow out some room and create a meditative space for yourself. And just like Deidre was saying, it doesn't matter what it is. Just try things until you find the thing.
Because it's
and
worth
then
it. It's worth it.
It's so worth it. And then just don't be judgy about it. Like, just let yourself have whatever experience you have. Maybe you have visions and downloads and incredible things happen. Or maybe you're just still and quiet without feeling guilty for the first time in like ever. Whatever you get out of it is perfect. I think that's the other thing, is we're like, well, but nothing profound happened. So?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just it's not all magic and rainbows.
Yeah, just be open to whatever is there to receive.
Yeah, I remember the first time I wasn't even attempting to meditate necessarily, but I was getting acupuncture. So I was on the acupuncture table. She had just put the needles in, and then she walked out of the room, and I was laying there with my eyes closed, and I started to see color, like you were saying. And I was like, whoa. When she came back in, I'm like, what does that mean that I'm like seeing color? And she mentioned it was probably related to the chakra colors. So then, of course, I started doing a bunch of research on that. And the next time I went in to get acupuncture, man, I wanted to see those colors so bad. I was like, what you were saying, Deidre, about like, I was like, where'd the colors go? What's going on? And she's like, yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, no,
you can't.
Totally doesn't work that way.
So
if anybody wants
that was
to,
part of how I learned to like relax and let it happen.
So if anybody wants to get in touch with Deb, I've got Deb's website down there. Is that correct? That's debpennerportal.com.
Correct. Yes.
And let's see. We also have your IG and TikTok and Facebook, Transformative AF. Love that. We're definitely kindred spirits. And then if you'd like to follow Deb Penner's adventures in her tin box.
Same thing.
IG and TikTok, it's at Tin Box Tales. Yeah, so let's get this back up here. But Deb, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Hang on with us. We have to get Get my buttons. Let's go ahead and do Osrine's ad spot real quick, and then we'll come back and finish out the show. Hang out with us, Deb.
We'd like to mention our affiliate sponsor, Osrine Natural Skincare, a woman-owned business that offers a variety of skincare products that are 100% natural, cruelty-free, and handmade using essential oils and herbal extracts. I've been using Osrine's Earthly Healer Lotion and noticed a wound healing significantly quicker than it had been without it. You can now get 10% off any of her products by going to osrineskincare.com/unleashedafpod. That's Osrine spelled AUSRINE skincare.com. Select your products and use Unleashed AF Pod as your discount code when you check out for 10% off.
Awesome. And Deb, anything else that you want to share with us before we end up the show? Wrap up the show?
I would just love to, particularly if people start tuning in and watching my journey and start thinking, oh, I could never do that. I just want to remind you that you most certainly could. That doesn't mean you should. This is my journey, and it's not for everybody. But I think that sometimes people look at somebody doing something that's pretty out there and they just think, I could never. And you absolutely could. And the path to here is the same path that both Deidre and Jenny have taken and that I have taken. And it's that path of unleashing and unmasking and tearing off all of those societal wrappings to get down to who you really are at your core. And when you get there, you can do whatever resonates with that you. So don't look in and think there's anything out of the ordinary magical going on here. This is accessible magic.
That's a good way to put it.
It is. That's
Accessible
really
magic.
good. That's really good. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, please tell your friends and tell your friends how awesome Deb is and how awesome we are too. We'd appreciate that. If you have a topic that you'd like to talk about or a question for us, please go to our website at Unleashed AF. I just lost the page. What is wrong with me?
UnleashedAFpodcast.com.
Thank you. UnleashedAFpodcast.com. Check out the section WWJDD. What would Jenny and Deidre do? If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, you can also fill out a guest application. Next week, we're going to do a wrap up of the Olympics. Yay! We've been doing great over the Olympics. I love seeing all the diversity and wow, just the amazing sportsmanship and talent. I know we're going to bring several stories next week to share and some unleashed stories as well. You have anything else you want to add, Jenny, before we go?
I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well. Thanks so much, Deb. It's been great hearing your story and talking through the meditative process with you. I'm really glad that you were able to be here with us today. It was an exciting show.
Thank you, ladies. It was truly my pleasure. It was so fun to be here.
Wonderful. So we're going to go ahead and kick off the show, and we'll meet you in the after show, Deb.
Okay, see.
I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. I'm ready